Good afternoon and welcome to the Candidate Forum for Pennsylvania's 166th Legislative District. I'm Jamie Mogul. I'll be your moderator for the forum today. I'm Voter Services Chair for the Lower Merion-Narberth League and former Vice President for the State Board. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We neither support nor oppose candidates. We are dedicated to ensuring that all eligible voters can vote without impediment and that they cast an informed vote. We want to remind people that the deadline for registering is fast approaching, October 19th. Please check your registration, don't wait, make a plan to vote, use our resources like vote411.org, where you can see the candidates running from the top of the ballot all the way down, just like those that are part of our forum today. And a special acknowledgement of the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters and the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Please consider joining the League, whether it be in your area or as a member at large. For forums like this and platforms like Vote 411 couldn't happen without our members. As you've joined us via the web, you know this is the new world, this new normal that we're living in the midst of the pandemic, the corona pandemic. We want to thank all of our essential workers on the front lines, that's doctors, nurses, and even our grocery store clerks for all they're doing during this time period. We salute you. We're not in an auditorium, like I said, we're now online. We're streaming this using technology. We're on Zoom and live streaming to our YouTube channel. Tonight's format will be similar, just like as if we were in person. We already had a rehearsal with the candidates, so we know the order of which they'll be going after flipping a coin. And each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening and 2 minutes for their closing. As time allows, we will ask the same question to each candidate, beginning first alphabetically. So Christine Boyle will go first, and then so on and so forth, flipping back and forth. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question, with 2 opportunities of 30 seconds to extend their answer or, in turn, reply to their opponent. They will visibly raise their hand, as we've practiced already before, to let us know that they'd like to use that 30 seconds. We ask you to listen. Usually I'd say to hold the applause, but you're at home, so clap away for the candidates. They certainly deserve it to be running for office or seating in office during these trying times. The entire forum will be recorded. And as the candidates already know, there is no slicing and dicing and editing of this forum for partisan means. Candidates will be made aware of the time via our timekeeper. So you all who are watching don't see the timekeeper, but the candidates and myself and the team behind the scenes helping do all this technology are aware of the time. So without further ado, let's get right to it. And it's the candidates. Christine Boyle, Republican, challenging Greg Vitali, Democrat and incumbent. Thank you both again for being accommodating and for being here. This is really a new thing. I know, Greg, you've already done one of these forums. So Christine, thank you so much for being here. And the candidates have agreed that I can call them by their first names because this is much easier. So we will begin with the opening statements. I'm going to put myself on mute, and we've already flipped. And I believe it's Greg, right?
Yes. First of all, thank you to the League for hosting this. And I want to thank the people of the 166th Legislative District for the trust they've placed in me. By way of background, I'm a lifetime resident of the district, being born and raised in Havertown. I went to Sacred Heart Grade School, St. Joe's Prep High School, Villanova undergrad, and Villanova Law School. I had a law practice in the community for a dozen years. And in the late 80s, became a community activist, which led me to running and winning this state House seat. In Harrisburg, my focus has been on environmental protection. I am the chairman of the House Environmental Resource and Energy Committee, and I'm on the Environmental Quality Board. My position on the issues is that of a progressive. I support women's reproductive rights, sensible gun laws, brick and mortar public schools, and gender equality. In the district, we take pride in providing good community services and keeping people informed with newsletters, email blasts, cable shows, and home visits. I'm looking forward to a positive, issue-oriented debate for the next hour with Christine. Thank you.
I muted myself. Christine, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the League for putting this forum together. I know it is during these challenging times that we have to adapt to what the situation calls for. But again, thank you, and thank you, Greg, for those kind words. Again, my name is Christine Boyle. I am running as the Republican candidate for the 166th Legislative District. As far as my background is concerned, I went to Fordham University, and then I went to Brooklyn Law School. And after law school, I worked as a public defender in Manhattan with the Legal Aid Society for 5 years. I moved back to Philadelphia. I'm originally from Montgomery County. I moved back to Philadelphia in 1994 and live on Highland Lane in the district. And I've lived there since 1994. So it's about 26 years that I've been in this district. And I have 3 children that I have raised in this district, participated in the schools, the community events, the sporting teams, and other civic associations. I think one of the biggest questions that everybody has, obviously I have no political background. This is my first foray into the political atmosphere. And unfortunately with COVID, it has made it even more difficult than normal. But one of the reasons that I looked into running is because last summer I reached out to Greg's office with an issue that was very personal to me and very concerning to me. It was about the whole vaping issue with our teens and the young kids that were becoming addicted to it. And the response that I received from his office was so lackluster, in my opinion. And I started to look into his voting record and his background, and I became somewhat annoyed at it. So that's where I started looking into it. And that's why I'm running, because I said, if not me, who? If not now, when? And I thank you.
Thanks so much to you both. So we're going to get to it, because the more time we have, the more questions we can get to, and the more that you can let the voters know about your platforms, your backgrounds, and what you'd like to do to continue to do or do for this district. So I'm going to start, and Christine, you're up first. And remember, 90 seconds for each question. And I think we'll start first with election reform, since elections are what we're all about. Pennsylvania recently enacted remarkable election reforms. And in your mind, how would you prioritize these recent changes in terms of their importance to voters in light of this election in the current pandemic?
Very good question, and obviously a very important question during this time. I think that some of the election reforms that have been enacted are actually not helping our voters. It is scaring people away from the ballots. It is turning people away from wanting to vote in person. I think that the election process has been working fine. I think that we should allow the people to choose their way to vote, whether it's a mail-in ballot, an absentee ballot, or voting in person. That's their choice, and they should be able to make that choice. We shouldn't be forcing them to vote a certain way. And I think that that's taking away from a person's ability to vote and to exercise their right to vote.
Thank you. And Greg? Yeah,
probably one of the most fortuitous things we did was allowing mail-in ballots for any reason at all, because with COVID, people just are put at risk, especially people, seniors and people with compromised respiratory systems are put at risk. So giving them that option to vote by mail, I think, was probably the most important thing we did. People have been voting by mail in states for many years, Washington, Oregon, for example. Voting by mail, there is very little incidence of fraud, almost none. It increases voter participation. It reduces costs. So it's a very positive development, and it's something that really has come in handy with COVID. That being said, this is a very important election, and voting in person, if you can, in the general election is something that should be considered for reasons I'll discuss later.
All right, great. Thank you both. All right, Greg, you'll be up first for this one. We're going to go right into COVID, as it's not only affected our election, but really everything in our everyday lives. So COVID will impact Pennsylvania's future. What should residents be prepared to do now and in the next few years to really understand the impact of COVID-19?
Well, I would say first and foremost, Governor Wolf and Secretary Levine have done an excellent job dealing with this very novel and dangerous situation. And I have been supportive of the governor in the actions he has taken. They've been measured, they have been based on science and statistics, and they have adapted over time to changing circumstances. Not everything he's done has been perfect, but there is no playbook for this. My role has been to keep people informed, and that's what I'll continue to do. We put out email blasts, sometimes as many as 5 and 6 times a week, and we have tried to really let people know things they can do and other tips relating to COVID. I think the main thing to do here is to follow the science, be careful, understand we're in a once in a lifetime pandemic situation, and just be careful.
All right, Christine.
Thank you. Could you read the question back one more time?
Sure. I skip ahead. So many questions here. COVID-19 will impact Pennsylvania's future. What should residents be prepared to do in the next few years? Now and in the next few years.
Okay. Thank you. Well, obviously, very important question, because the impact of this COVID virus on the residents of Pennsylvania, especially the residents of 166th district, is going to last for a while. Even after we have a vaccine, we're still going to find the economic, the social, the physical, and every other aspect of it is still going to resonate throughout the district. I do not agree that Governor Wolf has handled this the way that I would have had hoped. I think that some of the steps that he took have dramatically and financially hurt our citizens and the businesses in our district. I feel that some of his guides that he put out and his mandates that he put out were biased, were not fair to every business, whereas some of the bigger box stores were allowed to open at full capacity. And we have hundreds of businesses in this district that have suffered because they were not allowed to open up when the Walmarts and the Lowe's and these other stores were allowed to open up. I don't think that it was fair to the businesses in the district. As far as the future is concerned, we're going to have to, look into the education, how that has impacted our kids who have been having to learn virtually, whether they're special needs kids, regular school students. I mean, everybody has been impacted. Education has definitely taken a loss. Thank you.
Thank you for being cognizant of time, Christine. So you'll be up for the next question. And let's see, so many good questions that we got. I think we'll switch gears. We got questions about veterans and our first responders. What do you plan to do, or what are you doing to improve the lives of veterans and first responders in our area and in the state?
Obviously, we are proud to support our veterans and the first responders. What I plan to do, I obviously, like I said, this is my first time into the political forum. I would certainly research the issues that the veterans are facing and the first responders are facing, and look into their needs and their concerns. And I will hope to enact something that will help them. One of the things that I have come into contact with when I've been out campaigning is people are asking me what my platform is. And my platform is to help anybody in the district that needs the help. So whether there's veterans in the district that need something, I hope that they would be able to reach out to me and I will get them the answers that they need, as well as with the first responders. If there's issues that they're facing, I want them to come to me and I will do everything in my office to help them and resolve those issues. So as far as what their needs are right now, I'm not aware of anything, but I would definitely work toward helping the veterans and the first responders because we owe it to them.
Thanks so much. Greg?
Yeah, one of the things I've prided myself in over the years is my district office. I take a lot of time in hiring quality people and by and large get very positive feedback throughout the district. Veterans are one subgroup of people, senior citizens also in particular, that we help with the individual problems they might have with regard to receiving veterans benefits and other programs they might be available. And this quality we hope to continue. First responders, there are an assortment of state loan and grant programs benefiting first responders. And we're always supportive when the township or other groups ask us to assist them in their requests for grants or loans.
Thanks so much. We're going to shift gears and go to a different topic that I think you both know about professionally, and this is criminal justice reform. We got a question, do you believe, it's a two-parter, do you believe criminal justice reform is needed throughout Pennsylvania, and what changes do you feel need to be made and why? And that's for you, Christine, I believe, right? Or is it Greg?
I think it's Greg.
Okay, apologies.
Right. I mean, it certainly is needed. I see it evolving. You know, I like Christina, have done criminal defense work. I've tried felony cases and came to the legislature with a working knowledge of perhaps the criminal justice from the perspective of the accused. It's a difficult thing politically, and I found myself the lone voice in the wilderness on issues such as fighting against mandatory minimums and protecting the right of the accused to confront a witness face to face, and even frankly and controversially defending the statute of limitations. But I understand that these are necessary for our criminal justice. I do see things improving. We're getting a lot of bright young legislators from Philadelphia, for example, who know these issues, and it's good now to have some support in moving these issues forward. But we really need to take a look at sentencing and making sure it's reasonable and commensurate with the crime. And I do have a knowledge of this issue, and we'll keep working on these things.
Thanks so much, Christine.
Okay, thank you. Well, like I said, I worked as a public defender in Manhattan with the Legal Aid Society for 5 years out of law school, which was obviously several decades ago. But so I do have a firsthand experience with dealing with the criminal justice system. Obviously, that was in New York, but I believe that the systems are somewhat parallel here in Pennsylvania. I think that, as we all know, the purpose of the criminal justice system and the purpose of incarceration is to create a deterrent from these people, from the criminals acting again and from doing it again. We're supposed to be teaching them how to become better citizens. And I don't think the criminal justice system in Pennsylvania is working as a deterrent at this point. I think it's working as just a system to prosecute people and to give them, to put them into the prisons. I believe that some of the reforms that are needed are the parole violations. I believe some of the parole violations that are issued now are issued on a technical basis and not for anything that would justify a person being sent back to prison. I think that we also need to look into the criminal penalties for drug users rather than the drug pushers. I think that drug pushers are the ones that should be facing more time. It seems like this, especially, I mean, and I'm familiar with the criminal justice system in Philadelphia because I've handled some cases there. But, you know, it seems to me that the people that are using the drugs, the ones, the addicts and things, they're the ones that are getting more time than the people that are selling these drugs. And with the crisis that we have with the opioids, we need to get a better handle on that. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Our next question will also deal with regulations, and it's a short one, but a big topic. And we were asked, what measures do you support related to sensible gun regulations?
Is it me?
Yes.
Well, obviously, with my position, I do support the Second Amendment. I believe that the guns purchased by citizens, responsible citizens, is a right that we are guaranteed under the Constitution. I believe that there are so many loopholes, and one of the things that I was actually just reading an article about is the straw purchases, where people are purchasing guns and handing them off to other people, and it's become an industry. It's become like an underground industry that I really think that we need to step up our game with, and we need to stop that, because those are the guns that are getting into the hands of the criminals and people that have not passed a background check. So I think that we need to set up a commission to look into these straw purchases and to see where these guns are coming from and where they're going. And we should be able to track them. And we have the capability now with our law enforcement, and we should be able to do that. So that would be my big reform with the weapons.
Thank you. Greg, did you want me to read the question, or?
No, I got it. I've consistently received the endorsement of groups like Ceasefire PA and other groups that promote sensible gun regulation. And I have pretty much 100% voting record in this area. And I have voted for or co-sponsored bills like, banning assault weapons, one gun a month, prohibiting devices that would allow guns to rapid fire, closing things like the Florida loophole. It's absolute insanity for people to own assault weapons. Also supported things like allowing Philadelphia, if they choose to deal with their gun issue, by enacting laws different from the rest of the state, giving them the authority to do that. I oppose giving manufacturers of guns immunities when they act reckless and the guns they sell do harm. So I probably have a 100% voting record on sensible gun control.
Thanks so much. And lots of topics here. We're going to go next to agriculture. We got a question about that. Agriculture is Pennsylvania's #1 industry. The decline of family farms and international trade agreements are increasingly jeopardizing our sustainable economic backbone. What will you do at the state level to help our struggling farmers?
Me?
Yes, that's you, Greg.
Yeah, that's funny because we don't have any farming in this district, so I haven't focused on it too strongly. But the first things that come to mind are agricultural easements, allowing farmers, by selling off development rights, to maintain their family farms. I support programs like that. Also, things you might not think about, like promoting solar windmills, wind producing turbines on farmland. This actually gives farmers an added source of revenue that helps them struggle and really doesn't affect acreage to any great extent. They're the only two things I can think of with regard to farming at the moment.
All right, Christine?
Okay. Well, I think Greg and I probably agree on this topic. Obviously, agriculture is a large economic boom to Pennsylvania, and I think that we need to do everything that we can to preserve the farmlands, whether it is some tax credit that we can offer to them if it's a family that's continuing with the family farm, if there's any help that they need. I think that we need to do everything we can to protect the agriculture economy in Pennsylvania.
All right, great. So again, we'll switch gears because lots of great topics and great questions. Next, I'll ask about our infrastructure in Pennsylvania. Our question we got was, what are your priorities relative to Pennsylvania's aging infrastructure? How do you believe they are best addressed at a state level?
Okay. Well, living in this district, as you all know, we have been dealing with the two major bridge issues on College Avenue and Ardmore Avenue, which have just been, I don't even know how many years it's taken to get those fixed. The infrastructure in our district, I find it is not well handled. It's not well repaired. The streets are in disrepair. Our bridges, I know besides those two bridges in College Avenue and Ardmore Avenue, there's bridges on Bryn Mawr Avenue that had to be repaired. And it seems to me that we should have been looking at this a long time ago. All of a sudden now we're finding that there's so many problems on all of these streets and bridges and guardrails that need to be replaced. And if you're driving around this district, you see that there's constantly road repair being done now, but I don't know why it wasn't done on an earlier basis to prevent it from being this bad. So I would look into why it got this bad this fast and why we didn't look into fixing it earlier.
Okay, Greg, did you want me to read the question or?
No, I'm good, thank you. No, I think infrastructure, roads and bridges are really key to a healthy economy. And I think money well spent in needed repair and replacement is essential. One reason why there became a backlog was an unwillingness by the legislature to properly fund not only roads and bridges, but also public transportation. A number of years back, I took a tough vote along with my colleagues to impose a tax on oil, which resulted in a steady, consistent flow of money for these projects. That's why you're seeing more repair and construction than you have in the past. I'm happy that has happened. I think it's something that I would continue to support in the future.
Okay, thank you. So many good questions. One moment. Recent months have seen racial unrest across our state and nation. What do you believe the role of the PA House of Representatives is in addressing the root causes of such discontent?
Great. I think that the George Floyd incident highlighted a very important problem, which is the disconnect between what police officers feel is the appropriate time to use deadly force and what the public at large thinks. I think the police's view by and large is if a person does not obey my order to stop, then I have the right to use deadly force, whereas the public's view is that deadly force is only required when an innocent person's life is in danger. I think that was the root, that is in fact the root of a lot of these incidents that have received high profile. Happily, Haverford Township, Radnor Township, Lower Merion Township have high quality professional police forces. But there is a role from the part of the state legislature to adjust state laws regarding the conduct of police to make sure that deadly force is not used, misused, and that there are sanctions when it in fact is.
Thank you. Christine?
With regard to the role of the legislature, what I would, in my position, I think it is basically twofold. Number one, as Greg just said, we need to make sure that our law enforcements are trained and up to current standards of what is proper restraint to be used in any given situation. And I think with continuing education to the police officers, to any law enforcement is needed, and like it is in many industries. Like in the legal profession, we have continuing legal education just to keep you up to date. And I think that if we did that with the police officers, that would help the situation a lot. The other half, I think, is that we need to send a message to the residents and citizens of Pennsylvania that this rioting that took place is not acceptable behavior. Peaceful protests are 100%, permitted, allowed, and encouraged. To speak your voice, obviously. But when we saw what happened in Philadelphia on Walnut Street, which is where my office is right nearby, it's devastating to the businesses, to the people that live down there. And we have to send a message that that's not okay. So we need, the twofold would be, yes, educate the law enforcement to use the proper restraint, and then to educate the community as to how to handle a situation where you're not happy. Use your voice, don't use violence.
Okay. Let's switch gears. So many good topics. Thank you both. So we'll go to the budget, talking about what is a very exciting time. I'm sure Greg can tell you, and Christine, you may be part of that. Budget decisions appear to be increasingly challenging given the economic downturn resulting from the current pandemic. What options do you think the legislature should examine to increase revenue or decrease state expenditures?
Well, obviously, since I'm not in the legislature at this time, I don't have all the ins and outs of the budget and the many different, I'm sure, components of the budget for the state of Pennsylvania. But one thing that I did look into, and I was reading a little bit about, is I believe from this pandemic, Pennsylvania is looking at a $5 to $6 million deficit from the losses of revenue. I believe that there has to be some way where we can cut some expenses, whether it's in Harrisburg, whether it's in other local offices, in order to fund this deficit. I think that what we need to also encourage is the state of Pennsylvania. It's one of the major incomes would be the tourism industry. I know that Philadelphia and obviously Gettysburg, all the battlegrounds, the mountains, the Poconos, there's so much to Pennsylvania that if we started to promote it more as a tourist destination, that would bring economic growth, economic prosperity to the state. And I believe that would help us now overcome this deficit that we are experiencing from the pandemic.
Thank you. Greg?
Right. Yeah, we have an enormous budget problem. We actually came into this year pre-COVID with a structural deficit, meaning our basic sources of revenue, the personal income tax, corporate taxes, and sales taxes really weren't paying our expenses, and we really always had to have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. We are not funding government properly right now. We don't fund basic education sufficiently now, and that's why pressure is put on local school districts to raise property taxes. We're not funding environmental protection adequately now. We're raiding important funds that should be used for other purposes. There's no easy answer. There's not going to be an answer this year because the legislature simply doesn't have the will to address the issue. But in fact, if we get a more progressive legislature next term, we can start dealing with the structural deficit. Certainly, passing the easy taxes like the Marcellus severance tax is something, but we have to actually seriously look into something like increasing the PIT, maybe a couple of tenths of a percent, because that's not popular, but it's very sound from a policy perspective and could give us the needed revenue to fund education and do the other things we need to do and get us out of this COVID hole.
Okay, next one is a short one, but a big topic. Are you in favor of legalizing marijuana?
It's a difficult question. I think the short answer to this is, if I can be just brutally honest, although I'm not a champion for the issue, if a bill, well-drafted bill with regard to legalizing marijuana for recreational purposes were put before me, I would vote yes. I think it would need certain safeguards. I did vote for the medical marijuana bill. That was an easy yes. But I think times have changed. I think it is the will of the people that marijuana be legalized. So I would be a yes on a vote to legalize marijuana for recreational purposes.
Thank you. Christine?
It's a tough question for me because so I know that it has been proposed, or people are talking about it as a way to raise income for the state of Pennsylvania. I am just personally not a fan of legalizing marijuana for many different reasons. One is there's, as far as the lawyer in me, we have no way to calculate whether somebody is driving under the influence of marijuana. I don't think that's anything anybody really talks about or thinks about. For the driving under intoxication with alcohol, there's blood tests, there's the breathalyzer that would tell you, but at this point, there's no limit. So we have no way to regulate what is the proper amount of marijuana that somebody can use and then get behind a vehicle and drive a car. I've been out in Las Vegas and other cities where marijuana is recreational use is legal. And you walk down the sidewalk and you're smelling it, the smoke is blowing in your face. And to me, it's just it's not something that I would encourage, or that I would, that I'm in favor of. I know that it's obviously if the people of this district would want me to vote in favor of it, then I would have to listen to their concerns, and I would have to evaluate the pros and cons of it. But personally, it's not something that I think we're ready to do right now.
Okay. We're going to talk about education. We got a question. Public education is the foundation of our democracy. Often, partisan politics hamper its operation at the local school board level. What specific recommendations do you have to promote nonpartisan school board elections?
That's me, right? It's interesting because I do feel, especially now, I feel like with the local politics in play, especially in Haverford Township, Radnor Township, and Lower Merion, it's become even more important to know who is on your school board. With the Haverford Township and then the other ones going virtual, I think that there was many people that were caught off guard because they weren't even sure of the political beliefs and sides of the school board members. I do believe that the school board members should be bipartisan. I believe that it would work better for our students and for the citizens of the districts. Anytime you're playing party when it involves education and your children, it's never going to end well. There's an agenda out there for somebody to do something because of their political beliefs rather than what's right for the children. I do believe that the school boards hold a very, very important role, and I think that if we were able to keep it simply looking at what is in the best needs of the children would be a better outcome than whether it's run by the Democrats or the Republicans.
Thank you. Greg? Oh, are you muted there, Greg?
Looks like I was. Okay. Yeah, public education is the most important issue in this district. I've not been approached by any of my 3 school boards with regard to changing the laws with regard to the election of school board directors to make it less partisan. Their elections, they can cross-file, which makes it different than other elections. I think that is an effort to reduce the partisanship to a degree. I will say this, I've been endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Education Association. This is an enormously important problem, the funding of education. The state needs to do more to get more money into brick and mortar public schools. I think the use of charter schools generally has been expanded beyond their original intent. I think that cyber charters need to be reformed with regard to how they are funded, because what they get from the state is disproportionate to the costs they incur.
Thank you. So again, a different topic, but just as significant. As candidates and also as a sitting representative, you probably realize there is a need for reform in campaign finance in Pennsylvania. What are 2 or 3 things that you would believe are possible to be done to improve the current system?
Right. Earlier on in my career, I was very active in public financing of elections. I actually got a bill passed the House that would publicly finance gubernatorial elections. Transparency is, I would be supportive if it could be in compliance with the US Supreme Court of contribution limits and spending limits. That might be a little difficult in this climate. Certainly increasing transparency. Actually, in my early years, I began my own website putting contributions of General Assembly candidates on the internet, which prompted Governor Ridge to follow suit. So I think we need better disclosure and access to campaign finance records. Certainly, again, spending limits, contribution limits, public financing. These are all things I would support.
Thank you. Christine?
Well, my involvement with the finance for campaigning is obviously several months old, so I don't have too much experience with what regulations were in effect previously and what things have changed now. I do know that the forms that we are required to fill out now are detailed, and I appreciate that because I think that that's needed. I would fully support transparency in any financial campaign reporting. I was sort of shocked to learn that there is no campaign limit in Pennsylvania for donations, and that surprised me because most states do have a limit as to how much funding can be donated from one organization. I would look into that, and I would probably consider recommending a limit for the contribution, and I would also recommend a spending limit on campaigning.
Thank you. We'll go right into it. Under the PA Constitution, citizens have a right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of natural resources. Do you think this right should be eliminated, enforced, or modified, and why? I can read it again if you would like me to.
I think that the right should absolutely be enforced. It's a right of every American citizen, not just the state of Pennsylvania, obviously. We have the right to the clean air, clean water, and I would do everything that I can to support any legislature that came in front of me so that it protects the citizens and protects their right to clean air and clean water.
Greg?
Right, of course, that is essential. That environmental amendment to our Constitution has been around probably since the 60s, but it got re-energized in the past couple of years with regard to a case dealing with the regulation of the oil industry. My hope is that our PA Supreme Court continues to use that. Pennsylvania has so many environmental problems. Climate change is the most serious long-term threat to the health of this planet, and Pennsylvania is a huge greenhouse gas polluter. We produce almost 1% of the world's greenhouse gases. So if we want to do things like enacting RGGI, getting Pennsylvania into the regional greenhouse gas initiative, for example, we need tools at our disposal, in addition to the Clean Air Act and other things. We need tools like the Environmental Amendment to the Constitution to fight to beat off legal challenges to that. We need to do things like enact methane regulations so that the oil and gas industry can't release those greenhouse gases. We need the Environmental Amendment to protect our streams and our land. There's just so many important things that need to be done and aren't being done in Pennsylvania with regard to protecting the environment. And that is a critical tool in our toolbox.
Thank you. Go to a big, broad question, which is, what are your top legislative priorities and how do they compare to your opponent?
I am the chairman of the House Environmental Committee, so I spend a lot of my work time thinking about environmental problems. And I think that, again, climate change being the most important long-term threat to this planet is something that we need to address. I mentioned getting us into the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That will help. It's not enough. We need to increase our alternative energy portfolio standard in Pennsylvania so we can increase the amount of renewable energy we have. We need to expand Act 129 so we can improve our energy conservation measures. We have to decarbonize the transportation sector. Cars are a huge source of greenhouse gases. So it's a two-pronged approach of A, converting cars to electric, and B, making sure the electricity produced by our power plants is coming from renewable sources, not fossil fuel sources. So as this might come as no surprise to anyone that my top priority will be and continue to be environmental protection.
Okay, Christine?
Thank you. Well, I agree that the environment is a concern for all of us as citizens of the United States. I do believe that as the representative of the 166th district, there's people in this district that I've spoken with that have issues that they have to live with on a day-to-day basis that I believe need to be dealt with. So that's my goal is, I met people that live in a section over in Havertown where every time there's like a strong wind, they lose power, and it's a small section and they go for days without power because the response to PICO is it's just a limited number of people, but it's a constant thing for them. And that's something that I would hope to help them with. I met other people that are having an issue, believe it or not, with skunks burrowing under their foundation, and it's actually destroying their foundations. That's another something that I would want to be able to help these residents with. I think there's a lot of other issues that the people of the district have to deal with, whether it's the taxes, obviously this economic downturn that we're in now because of COVID, that's a huge issue. I think that as the representative, you have to deal with every issue and many different issues other than the environment. And I think that's the difference I would like to make between Greg and I.
Thank you. We got a question, and this is particular to Delco as opposed to Manco, where I am in Lower Merion, that when can we expect a functioning health department for Delaware County? And then the second part of the question is that addiction treatment is limited due to high costs and the lack of appropriate facilities. What do you believe the legislature should do to help communities struggling with these issues?
Well, as probably many residents of Delaware County, I was shocked to find out that we did not have a health department, that Chester County was in charge of handling our issues. And shame on me for not knowing that, but it's something that I have looked into, and I don't know why it was taken away from us, but I will certainly look into the issues more and demand more because I think the citizens of Delaware County deserve to have a health department. We certainly pay enough taxes, and there should be a system in place to deal with it. As far as any addiction centers, I believe that the legislature is responsible for setting up open access to everybody, for anybody that has an addiction and that is looking for help. I think that it's a burden of the state to try to help anybody looking for treatment centers. I believe that as the representative, if that's an issue in this district, I believe that we should handle it.
Greg?
Yeah, on the issue of the Delaware County Health Department, I think we now have 5 new Democratic County commissioners, I think all of whom in the course of their campaigns campaigned on a county health department. So I think this is what you're going to see at some point in the future. Given the COVID crisis, this is something difficult to enact right now. We're relying, as you know, on Chester County. Addressing the opioid problem, and it is very real in this district. Police officers have approached me and just underscored the importance of this problem. That is one of the truly bipartisan issues in the legislature. I don't think there's really a lot of partisan bickering on this issue. And we passed a number of bipartisan measures to help deal with the problem. Things like, creating a database that doctors need to report who they issue opioids to, so someone with a problem can go from doctor to doctor. We passed legislation relating to limiting the amount of opioids that can be given when emergency room care is administered. We've tried to establish and fund treatment centers.
Thanks for acknowledging time, Greg. So we're getting close to time. I can't believe it. We've gone back and forth. We're getting to the end. I'm going to have one last question, and then we'll go to our closing statements. It's really a basic one. If you had a magic wand that would remedy a current problem in Pennsylvania, what problem would you solve and why?
Difficult question, because I'd be sort of torn between the proper funding of our schools and reducing greenhouse gas. And there's my focus has been on climate change. And if I could get Pennsylvania to be carbon neutral by waving a magic wand, I'd probably do that. That would be closely followed by a fair and equitable funding of our schools, I think.
Christine?
I think if I had a magic wand at this point, what I would do is eliminate COVID. I think everybody in the state of Pennsylvania wants to go back to life as we knew it in December of 2019, January of 2020. That's obviously on everybody's mind. We want to get back to life as normal. So anything that I could do with the magic wand to eliminate the economic hardships, the mental struggles that people are going through, the physical struggles people are going through that have been isolated in nursing homes and things like that. It's heartbreaking to see. That would be my magic wand trick.
Thank you. And thank you both. This time flew by. We learned a lot about the both of you, and that's really why we call it a forum and not a debate, to give you a platform to inform us as voters here in the 166. So I'm going to turn it over to you for your closing statements. Again, you both have 2 minutes for your closing statement. And I believe... Oh, okay, Greg, go ahead.
No, I was going to start, but I'll wait for your signal.
Oh, go ahead. I was just making sure we knew the order, but you did.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank the League for the great job today and thank Christine for a civil debate. My approach to this job is pretty well defined. I will continue to be an advocate for environmental protection, public schools, reproductive rights, gun legislation, gender equality. I'll also try to provide a high quality of constituent services and keep people informed. So if people like the job I'm doing, I ask for their support. But frankly, this race pales in comparison to the presidential race. Donald Trump is a serious threat to the long-term health and safety of this planet. And voter turnout in southeastern Pennsylvania is crucial, not only in Pennsylvania, but nationwide. I encourage everyone listening to vote, but you probably will already be voting, but it's important to have others vote. Encourage them, if they're going to vote by mail, start now and be very careful because their vote could be challenged. I'm going to be voting in person because I think it's best given the challenges that might come. Please encourage all to vote either by mail or in person. If you have any questions relating to polling locations, how to vote by mail, drop-off points, give my office a call. Thank you for everyone for allowing me to participate in the great job everyone has done.
Okay, Christine.
Okay, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to have this forum. It was very informative. I want to thank Jamie for being a wonderful moderator, and Greg for, again, a civil debate, which is the way it should be. And I hope we set an example for future debates. In closing, I just want to say that like I said, one of the reasons that I ran is because I had an issue that I thought was important to me. And I said, if I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? Greg's been our state representative for 27, almost 28 years at this point. I think that it's time for a change in Harrisburg. I think the people of the district, and the more and more I speak to the people of the district, people want to change. People want somebody who's going to listen to all of the issues that they have and fight for them in Harrisburg. I don't think that Harrisburg has been working well. I think that there's a disconnect up there. It's gridlock. No bill gets through unless it's sponsored by one party versus another party, and that's not how it should be. As your representative, I'll work for the Democrats in the district, the Republicans in the district, and the independents in the district. I'm not running on a platform of one sole issue. I'm running for the residents, and I want to help you, and I want to be there, whether it's an issue that you're having with traffic on your street, whether it's an issue with electricity on your street. I want to hear it, and I want to be able to help you. And I promise if I can't help you, I'll at least get you the answers as to what the holdback is or what the issue is. My years, I've been a practicing attorney for over 30 years now. I've been an advocate for my clients, whether it's the criminal defense clients, my current clients. I advocate for them, and I promise that I will advocate for you as your state representative. And I look forward to November 3rd, and I wish everybody good luck in the election.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. And yes, I do think we set a good example about how we can be professional and civil and inform voters. So I appreciate the two of you doing so. So thank you so much. And again, I'm Jamie Mogul. I'm with the League of Women Voters. I'm the Voter Services Chair for Lower Merion Narberth League. But it's not just our league. We are spliced and diced due to gerrymandering. So we have parts of Delco as well, Haverford and Radnor. So I want to thank the leagues of Delaware County and Radnor and the group behind the scenes, because there is a technical crew, Kathy Youngman and Mazakowski and Joanna Nealon. Thank you so much to everybody. And as was mentioned, look, we have different options to vote. Voting has already begun. And as we say at the League, you do you. You want to vote by mail? Great. You want to go in person? Great. It's really important to make a plan to vote. And if you're going to vote by mail, we want to emphasize you need both of those envelopes, okay? You're going to fill in the bubble with dark ink, no X's, no check marks, and you're going to seal it in both of those envelopes, and you're going to sign and date it. There are drop boxes, there are satellite offices. You can go to our league websites. You can go to Delco Voter Services, Montco Voter Services. Make sure you know the source of your information. We at the League, we do a good job, and also vote 411 so you can find out more about the candidates like Christine and Greg and plan your ballot, whether you're voting by mail or you're voting in person on election day. So thank you both so much. And thank you to the League. Please join the League. We can't do without our members, and have a great day. And go Birds. We deserve a win, like a full win.